All right, we're going to dive right into this with making your figures a little extra bloody. This is, I explained this post-apocalyptic Jason look. It's a work in progress. I explained it in the modifying Michael Myers body. But I was playing around with some blood applications. There's this Michael is going to be, it's a repainted Michael, and it's going to be the blood drenched version. I am very proud of how the hands came out. There's this just dripping blood look to it. It's nice, it's dried, but it looks nice and wet and glossy and gross. The fingertips just have a little bit of extra blood. So when his hand is at his sides, a little bit of blood dripping off. Like he just, mutilated a victim and blood is just raining down. It's kind of a work in progress because I'm testing out how to get him looking like he's, blood drenched, but he doesn't look like a figure that has blood thrown on him. You ever see that where they do a bloody version, but it looks like a figure that has, like it's a action figure with, blood just thrown on him? I want it to look a little more organic. So I'm playing around with making, painting it darker, uh, shit like that. So he's got a little bit of blood here. Part of the idea is he's got a wound inside. You won't be able to see it, but you'll see a little bit in certain angles. So he's got blood dripping down there. He's going to have just blood caked on a lot of places. The blood splatter is going to be all over him. I think he might have a bit of puddle blood here, depending. But I'm working on it. I want to make it look a little more realistic instead of being slapped on there. So I'm doing a little bit at a time. But I love how his hands came out. I mean, it looks wet. It looks fresh. I even was able to get some of it nicely coated in between his fingers. On this one, I like how I did it even lighter. And it's only got a few little strings of blood. This hand I like a lot. I really dig that. I didn't want to do the same thing on both hands, but I really dig that dripping blood. But I did mess up, and I did the left hand. This one is going to be the hand holding a knife. Again, everything's drenched in blood, but it's the left hand. And I made this left hand my favorite. So now I have two favorites, one holding the weapon and one not. I should have done this hand on the right, so then I would have my favorite dripping hand. I might just go grab a right, closed fisted hand and keep it because I really like this. Obviously, I'd be able to do this over again, but I already love the way this came out. What's the point in doing another one? The way I did this, though, is I really coated his hand, and then I wiped it off, giving some of the top of his hand bloodless, and then the bottom is different levels of blood, little tiny strokes, and then where it, like where his knuckles is, I loaded it up, some blood dripping down from the inside of his hand, and it puddles down at the very bottom. And then for his arms, I did a few layers so it looks like I'm trying to go for a look where it's soaked into his outfit and not just thrown on top of the figure. So that's how he's going to look. He's got blood coming out of his neck there. I touched up the mask that Halloween Kills holds because the blood was nice, but mine was just okay. So I added some nice trails of blood dripping down. I added more here where he's going to be holding it. I even added more to, here's what Halloween Kills looked like when I took it out the box. And I like the work Neca did. I like how it's subtle and it fits the overall figure. But I wanted it a little bit more. So I added a little more fresh, keeping some of that old with the fresh. And then my favorite is the pinching hand, where he's going to be holding the mask. And where's that? I love how there's a little thumb spot right there. But where he's holding the mask, I added just a little more, just for effect. I think it came out good. You got some of that old dried up blood, but then you got some of the fresh blood, and he's bleeding through his bandage. So that came out good. There's also touching up the head. This is the head that came with the reissue. There's different quality when it comes to this head, depending on however the factory did it. Some of them come out good. Some of them are just, this one is pretty shit. But I made it into a more gore-tastic, in my opinion. I like the look of that fresh. I mean, this is someone that Michael in the movie had just killed and carved up. So he's fresh and bloody. I did add a little bit of black to the blood to give it fresh, but it's starting to age. At least that's what I was going for. So I think he looks great. I like having an original, just, keeping what Neca did. But I also really enjoy how the blood really pops. That shiny blood work. I touched up a Chucky. I think we've got like 4 Chuckies. My daughter has one. I had one of the originals. There was one that came with the Chucky and, the Bride of Chucky. So we might have 3 of them sitting around. And I wanted one because he looked cool with half the bloody face. So I did the bloody face and I added blood to his hair. I really like how that looked. The blood transferring over to his hair. The rest of his head is fine. You can see that's the normal color. And then bam, it just blends in. I love that. And I made some of the gore a little more shiny and added some more where it looked printed. But then I wanted some on his neck and a little on his shirt. And I did his shirt. And I was like, man, you know what? We got 3 Chuckies. I want to do just something gory. My daughter had a little snow cone, ice cream cone. So she said I should have put blood on the ice cream cone. But I thought that might have been too much. So just wanted, this dried blood, nasty, caked on there, mixed with some of his fresh kill. Did a little bit of the same, having it just super bloody. And this is still a work in progress. I'm not even satisfied fully, but I like where it's going. I like having one of the Chuckies that's just done. And I think he's cool with other heads, having bloody weapons and all. But I think he looks really cool with this torn off head. And or the ripped apart half a face. And I'm not all too concerned with screen accuracy when it comes to that guy. I'm just going for a bloody looking Chucky. I did go ahead and cut the tip of this down a bit. I wanted to make it look a little jaggedy. And it's not the best. I just did it real quick just to give some sharp shape there. And then just slap some new kind of more clumpy blood on. Just to give it a look. Because instead of it being more round. But I probably shouldn't have. But I just like that idea. How Neca did it though. This is the one accessory I just didn't like. I needed to do something with it. And that's for the Halloween kills. And then we have a bloody one of the beginning of the blood covered it. Doing a lot of blood work. I should probably do a blood covered Jason. Who am I kidding? That'll happen. So I got blood covered Jason. We have Myers. We have Chucky. I should keep it going and do a Freddy, but we'll see. But I love I started with, was it first or Chucky first? I think I started with Pennywise first. It was this head. I had multiple bodies, and I was a little bored of having like 4 of just the plain bodies. I know there's a version with a little bit of blood on them, and I never picked that one up because it just wasn't enough. So I went in here and I added some splatter, and I added some blood to the face, and I wanted to do a little bit of blood here with some blood on his gloves on the inside. And that got me to thinking I wanted something that was like you looked at it and it was just whoosh, covered in blood. Now, in the light in the camera, it looks like it's this bright, like orangey kind of blood, and that's not how it looks in person. In person, it's really toned down and it mixes with the gray really nice, and it actually looks like the blood's in the material and not just on top of the figure. So I'm really happy with how it came out here. And that's multiple layers to get it to sit like that, because the idea is when I was adding it, you add it in really thin layers so it's kind of transparent. So the gray will show through the red. And it gives this nice mix of the blood red with the gray. You do a few layers, but you do them in different spots. So that's why some of it seems a little darker and fresher. I did add a tint of black, and I did go over it in certain areas. So that's why it's all types of mixed together. This, you can see here, is a little bit of the more fresh blood, which is the hint of that black stuff there. And I did lightly brushed it on so you can see on his suit. I just like how that came out. So I did it there. I did it on his legs as if he's kneeling down and he ate the shit out of his victim. I just did a little bit on the ruffles down here, and then his legs, and a little bit on his skirt. But his hands is where he just devoured his victim. It's all over. And that was the point I was going for, making his hands his just covered in blood. And then obviously his chest with, I don't know if I like having how it looks though. It kind of stops at the buttons. It looks off to me. At first it was looking all right because the idea was it was going to be here and then come to a finer point and then be scattered a bit. But I think I somehow went here and then straight down, and I just don't like how that looks. So I'm going to add some blood splatter on this side and even it out. Now, none of these have the blood splatter yet. I'm adding that at the very last. Because even though if you let it dry, if it's thin enough, you can paint over it and you can still see the spots. I just like adding that last because I like doing the really fresh blood splatter, add a tiny tint of black or blue or purple, depending on how you want the blood to look, and then doing some spatter, and then adding a little more of the black, blue, whatever, and then adding that. So it gives it like 3 different shades of that blood red. That's what I was going for. But I really like how he came out. In the camera, he looks, I don't know, he looks a little too bright. But that's just not how, I mean, it is a dried up, gross looking red in hand. And I really like how that came out. Some of the blood is, if you can see it, it's kind of like soaked up there, sitting on his arm. Maybe I could do a little more in there. And I might not even be done. I just kind of stopped for now because I was liking where it was going. And then at the end, I'm going to have a handful, and I will do the blood splatter all at once. There is one other small one I did. I know I need to get my hands on another shredder. I did this modified shadow shredder. What I did was I switched a regular shredder with a foot soldier body because they share the same mold. But I want to make a version of the Ninja Turtles, but with different style. And some of them are going to have that blood effect. I know Raph is going to be set up with machine guns and bullets and, wrapped with bullets and all that. But I wanted to make it a subtle bloody shredder. And I thought, I already have the shadow version, the modified. I might as well just add the blood to him and give him kind of that double shadow shredder, but he's got a little bit of blood on him. So I was really careful with making sure he wasn't just drenched. I wanted it to look like he legitimately has some battle wear from fighting. So you can see some of the blood is on his wrist gauntlets, and it's blood mixed with a little bit of black, so it's a little more dried. And I did it so it is in swipes because he'd be punching, slicing, slashing, and I wanted to get some of that movement in with the blood. And I really like how that came out. I did it on his left wrist, his right gauntlet, his right fist has a little bit of blood on his knuckles. And then that was it. I didn't do any on the legs. I was unsure if I even wanted to bother with the legs at the time. I was contemplating doing just a little bit on one of the shoulders, as if someone got jammed up with a shoulder blade, but I didn't. For now, I just kept it on the two arm pieces, and I really like how that came out. So that's it. So we got Bloody Shredder, we got Chucky, we got Pennywise, and then we got the blood on whatchamacallit. Bam. All right, that's it. Oh, real quick. There's a couple things you could do. You can mix your own blood, which is something I do. Or, here, I want to add, with the Halloween kills, you can use the arms that he comes with for kills. But in the beginning of the movie, he doesn't wrap his hand. So I even made this a little more bloody with some fireman blood on there. Just all the way around. Just made it a little more bloody. At the bottom, added a little more blood. I like how that came out. But you can reuse the Neca 2018 hands, and it'll be like the very beginning of the movie where he hasn't wrapped it yet. So his left hand is shot and bloody and leaking. So I added extra blood just to give it that leaking look. So that's what that is. I don't know if I showed that yet. So I added that so that way when he's in the beginning of the movie and he's ready to throw down, I believe he doesn't wrap his hand. I only saw it once. He doesn't wrap his hand until he gets to that old couple. The old couple flying the drone. That's where he wraps his hand in the bathroom. So I added a little bit of blood to the face. I just like how that looked. But I added a lot of blood to the hands. Now, I mix my own for clothing specific blood. Like if I want to blend it with the clothing. If I can't cheat it by doing like thin layers and blending it that way, because I use this blood paint here. It's Permablood Permanent Blood Paint by Pale Night Productions. www.palenightproductions.com. That's not an ad. I bought this myself to test it out. It was something I was going to use on a short when we eventually got around filming a short horror. And it is fantastic. This is what we were going to use on some of the permanent props. But this shit is amazing. It allows you to work super fast. You don't have to mix your own blood every single time you sit down to test out a project. Like when I was testing out the blood on the hands, I only had a little bit of time. So I just grabbed the hand and I put it on a stick, actually. And I just did a little bit of blood right from the bottle. Thin layers, started the tips. I had to run off to work. I came back before bed. I played around with it a little bit more, added some more of the blood, tried to see how I would want the arm to sit. And I have to worry about making my own color, bright red or darker red. Or blacker, dried blood. This stuff, and you can mix black with it, blue with it, purple with it, even brown with it, depending on what shade of the blood you're going for. But you'll have to play around with your own mixes. And one tip, only mix a tiny bit of paint because black, for example, will go a long way. You can do a little dot of black and you can turn the paint, separate it in a separate container, but you can turn the paint Very dark, dark red with a little bit of acrylic black paint. All right, I'm out. That's all I got to say.